Before I wrote a single line of my first app, GrowthMap, I sat down and designed the entire system on paper. Why? Because you cannot eat an elephant whole and you cut it into pieces first, and that's what today's video is about, breaking one big app into buildable chunks. For anyone who's new and watching me for the first time, I'm an ex senior product manager and I'm learning to be an AI engineer in public. And I've decided to do this in a couple of interesting ways. One, I'm not going to wipe code because system engineering, design, and architecture matters a lot, and I want to understand that deeply. And I have designed this whole system as building apps, public apps, which is a series of 6 apps I'm going to build, starting with API inference, which is my app one growth map, all the way up to autonomous agents. So all of the code resources are free, and here's a link to my channel for my previous videos where I talk about ideation, etc. So subscribe and build alongside me as we become AI engineers. So why modularize, right? Um, I left GrowthMap after I think after 3 or 4 days, because I went on a conference, and when I came back, I had a lot of overwhelm. I don't know where to start from. And last Tuesday, if you watched my video on actually ideation and pivoting the idea, I knew exactly who I'm solving this problem and what I'm doing. But what I didn't know is how actually does this really look in practice. So I started putting more thoughts around, would some of it be free? What would be free? What would be the flow for a free journey versus a paid journey? And I started putting together that interaction flow. So, what I want to show you is just take you through the app that you're building, any similar app, I'm presuming, which takes an AI inference and let's say builds a data report for a user. Um, so from my last video, I left off by thinking I'll come back and start designing the database first, but that's the wrong move. Don't jump into database unless you exactly understand how your journeys look like. I think the two fundamental questions you need to ask yourself is, do I have any free journey, or is it all going to be gated, which means there is a higher friction from onboarding and people may not use it, right? So I have chosen to have a free journey that gives some value for growth map, which is exactly, would it be prospectable or not, right? So that's the free thing I'm giving away, because though I'm going to incur API costs on it, I believe if more people start to use it, eventually the building the report itself can come later. So the first major decision that I've taken is, I'll have a free journey. The free journey is going to take a URL, and that is just going to give whether this is a valid prospect and give some helpful information on what my SEO freelancers can use this for as a prospect, right? Um, and also I am not building the entire report, which actually the paid report itself, and then pushing it to production. I'm going to actually stop here, put this on production, give it to people, get feedback, and only then iterate. So it's also great to be agile this way. um, the other interesting bit that I've had to think about is, um, since you are going to have a web app, how do you manage users? So typically, you have user management, you create your users, or you can have Gmail or any other auth providers, or you could have something like your fingerprint, or anything else as well, right? More advanced forms. So since I've taken the first decision, which is I'm going to have just a free journey now, and my free journey needs to be as frictionless as possible. The next question was, do I need user details? Yes, I do need user information, because without user information, I'll not know who I'm serving this for. So I need to just capture a minimal email ID, right? So my journey then became like, I will first take a URL, I'll do bare minimum checks, and then take an email ID so I can provide them the free um, prospecting check of whether this is a good opportunity. And then I'll build on that opportunity into a paid report only if there is signal from the market. So that's my actual user journey. I've not written my user journey, but instead I decided to make it more of a tech flow, and start writing the interaction flow in terms of what happens when a user, what data calls or external calls do I need to make, how many LLM inference calls do I need to make, and list this. So this actually becomes my entire actual spec of what I'm going to build, and my code and my database design, everything becomes much simpler after that, right? So just to walk you through this one, I'm posting a URL, and there is my server that gets a specific domain. It'll check whether the user has any tokens or allowance to actually run this free check. I'll check if there is already something in our cache. Have we done this URL before? Because I don't want to do the rest of the things. Otherwise, I'll create what I'm calling as a qualification request, just a simple ID, and I'm going to call a specific set of APIs to fetch ranked evidence and then store that information. I am going to fetch some page on page data in terms of like, do they have H1, do they have any other tech SEO signals, and then store all of that information. The other biggest decision is, when do you call LLM for, and who does, almost like the yes, no, and the scoring logic. So there are two paths I can take, right? So I can either get the LLM to do the scoring, and I do the classification of what keywords matter and then the summary. But then if I do this, I would have to handle all this semantic logic in code, which I don't really like, and I hate putting directories or simple maps, or lists with a set of words saying that if it is this then that, because that's like very fuzzy logic. LLMs do that way more better. So my decision was to get the LLMs to take my information about the URL, about the on-page information, the keyword, and then give me a specific summary on what the improvement areas are, if any, and also give me the classification of these keywords, what keywords are more important for them, what can be discarded, right? And what I'm going to do is actually in my code put together a deterministic score of all of this data, and including what LLM has sent me back, to say how good is this prospect. Is this something that is there, like, is it like a, oh yeah, it's a must one, please go after it, and these are all the actionable things that you can do, right? And I'm just going to store that and send that response back. So this is literally the entire design of what I'm going to build as a free um, set of qualification, right? And this then made my rest of the day and my next video, where I'll talk to you about designing the database itself. So the biggest takeaway is, once you have your idea, once you've understood exactly what you're going to do, please pause and start writing your interaction flows. Take some key decisions on how your users, at what point are you actually asking a user to log in or give their data to you, and how you're going to store that, and where your session will start existing. In my free flow, I've taken the decision that I don't really have this notion of a session yet. I'm just tracking a user based on a token, right? And that's enough for me. It's not perfect design. and I know there is a lot of issues that can happen, but considering this is just the free version, I want to keep it super simple and start off. I hope this was useful, and I've also set up a repository today. We have GrowthMap on GitHub, so that's super exciting. We're official. So if you're following, I do encourage you to start building your app. If you're stuck anywhere in ideation, validation, how do you break modules like I did? How do you decide what's free versus what's paid? Do please send me a note on info@bankster.com, or just put a comment on YouTube. I do check all of them. I hope you continue to watch and learn and build alongside me. See you in the next one.